Yeah. So this is
You don't
double.
need it. They're almost done.
Single. And
Oh, you can't register on there? I thought she said you could. Oh, thanks. Okay.
You guys can leave them here once you're done with them if you want, but this gives you all the information regarding the retreat. Tells you our outreach, we're asking the ladies to get a person, these kinds of things.
Oh.
So
Oh, buy a kind of like the gift bag thing?
yeah, you buy a person, you
They get it.
and then we are distributing it to like women's shelters and that
Oh,
kind of thing.
okay.
And so they're not coming out of there with a plastic bag full of stuff. They come out with a cute little purse that they can put their stuff in. And
That's so cute.
yeah. Oh, and we have a lot of fun. So, and you don't have to, but if you want to, we have a pajama party on Saturday night. It's so much fun. And we do a little fashion show. So you don't even have to pick up the one you got, but you can pick one. And the girls are like, look at this purse. Isn't it cute? This one is made of this. And then they go, oh, and look, oh, it's got this in it, this. And so we have a blast.
It was.
It's a lot of fun. So it's a really
cool.
fun time.
Okay. Berg, B-U-R-G.
I guess it was Roseburg or B-U-R-G?
E.
SDA Church. Yeah.
There's no E on the end of it? Oh, okay. It's legible. Your signature's legible. Your specialty is legible. Oops. Trash in your podium.
Ladies, I think we better start. We're going to have Tawny come back up and share with us again. And ladies from the Chiloquin and the Bonanza Church, maybe they can send you those little cards out just to maybe somebody separate in your church, because somehow they must have got lost by the wayside. So if you're wanting that, the little, can you hold that card up for me, please? Jeanette, thank you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so if your church wants it, and you have somebody that wants to be responsible for it, so that you can get it back to your church, then raise your hand today, and then we'll just mail it. You can get in touch with them and give them an address. They can mail it to your home, and then that way, hopefully, they don't get lost in the post office. It's for the retreat. Thank you. I need help. Anyway, so I think we're going to begin, and I just want to say, ladies, don't leave us too quickly, because... Well, anyway, we're going to begin. Tawny, would you please come up, and we'll get started. Oh, wait, no, we're not going to skip the most wonderful music that we could have.
Okay.
Let's get this up here. And that's going to be the track 3, I think. All right, this is a new song for me. This is the second time I'm singing it, so I definitely have words. But when I heard this song, it's called A Living Prayer. And it kind of goes with the other song. Once we've committed our life to Jesus and we want him to shine through us, sometimes we don't know where that's going to take us. Like, I love your bags. So now that you've got your bags, pray that you'll be a living prayer and listen to the promptings of the Holy Spirit, because he's always with us. No matter where we go in our life and what path we walk, God is always with us, and we can always be whispering that to be a living prayer. Let Jesus work through us. So that's what this song's about. In this world, I walk alone, with no place to call my home. But there's one who holds my hand on the rugged road through barren lands. The way is dark, the road is steep, but he's become my eyes to see, strength to climb, my griefs to bear. The Savior lives inside me there. In your love I find release, a haven from my unbelief. Take my life and let me be a living prayer, my God, to thee. I think we're on the high version, but we'll keep going. Through these trials of life I find another voice inside my mind. It comforts me and bids me live inside the love the Father gives. In your love I find release, a haven from my unbelief. Take my life and let me be a living prayer, my God, to thee. Take my life and let me be a living prayer, my God, to thee.
All right, we're all different heights here. This seems to work pretty good. Oh, dear. All right. Well, how many enjoyed that wonderful lunch? Wasn't that great? Oh, I loved it. Thank you, ladies, for bringing the wonderful food. Well, how many of you like to have a warm drink in the morning or the evening? Lots of us. I really like that. I come out and turn the teapot on and everything. But one morning, during the quarantine, after everything kind of got shut down, that first time really nailed down pretty tight, well, I opened my French vanilla. Anybody ever have little thing of French vanilla? Yeah. And it's one of my favorite hot drinks. I don't drink it really now, but I did for many, many years. But anyhow, when I went to open it up, I was like, oh, everything was nailed down. We were supposed to be going to the store and, had to be really careful and everything. And I looked, and there was only just a little bit in there. I was like, oh, no. I tried to calculate, how many cups I had left in there. And I was like, this is not going to last, even if the quarantine's only for a week or two, I was in trouble. I discovered there wasn't near enough to last until the curve had been flattened. Well, have you ever noticed when you open a jar of like Roma or Piro, I drink Piro now, and or coffee or hot chocolate or whatever it is that you drink, that you're pretty generous at first? I do that, that French vanilla, man, I'd do 2 big scoops, and then I'd get down. And then I'd go, oh, man, I wish I would have done the right amount. I'd have more cups now left over, And so, about halfway down, you become more conservative. And then you get down to the bottom and you're scraping the sides going, please let there be enough for one last cup, And so I was thinking that time is like that. We're going to talk about redeeming the time. And so when we're young, we think we have all the time in the world. Anybody remember that? We have all the time in the world. And then, we get a little older. We don't put a lot of thought into our purpose and our, the plans that we have or anything. But then about middle age, well, then I remember starting to get, maybe I better pretty soon start thinking about that, And then you find yourself going around the bend like I am now, and I'm like, oh, I better really snap to and start paying attention, right? And so I want to ask you, I'm going to have you do something in just a minute. The girls are going to hand this little thing out. I put the face of a clock on here, okay? There's no hands. You're going to draw, and on this side is a little formula for you to use, and I want you to put the hands of what time it is in your life, okay? I want you to do that because I think it'll kind of surprise and startle you. They're going to hand them out. If you need a pencil or a pen, just let them know, and I'd like you to do that, okay? So if you're looking at your little chart, you'll have to, as you ladies look at this on the right-hand side, you can make the adjustments. If you're 10, it's 3 a.m. If you're 35, it's going to be between 9 and noon. So draw the hands to the age you are, the best you can guess there. We'll do that another time. Oh, I need a pen. I know. It was on the chart that I found, Susan. But if you're past 50, which you are, then you have to adjust up. Yeah. Oh, no way. You should use a pencil. No fudging. Just because Tina's not being truthful doesn't mean the rest of you don't have to be. All right, has everybody drawn their age on the clock? Anybody brave enough to tell what time it is? I love it, yeah. Yeah, okay. 6:22, all right. Now, if you're 65, then it's between 6:22 and 10 p.m., so you adjust it accordingly. I just gave you the outline, yeah. So, no fudging. You're plotting and planning over here. Oh, you better not do that. You might get in trouble. All right, raise your hand if you've got the time on your clock. Everybody got it? Oh, Tina, later, let's get a picture of them with their clocks. Yeah, or do it now. And just everybody hold up, but wait till Tina gets her thing ready.
Let me get my camera ready.
Yeah, and everybody hold your clock up. Oh, you're hiding behind your clock.
Let me get up here. Okay, Tani, turn around, and everybody hold up your clocks. Okay, ready? Everybody eyes on me, hold up your clocks. Oh, I love that. Wait, that one's too cute. Stay there. She's got it on her head. I love it. Okay, got it. She was holding that.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. When I ran across this, it kind of startled me. And I wanted to share it with you because I'm 71. And when I do it on the clock, starting at 70, it's 10 o'clock, right? I am in the final stretch there. And it really made me stop and think about, how do I want to redeem the time that God has given me that I have left? Now, for all of us, it could be a day, a moment, a week, a month, or years. I have no idea. But it really made me stop and think. So it was just a fun thing to do, but I hope it makes you stop and think too, that no matter what time it is in your life, how do you want to redeem that time? No matter how much or how little you have left. Most of you are younger than me. You most probably have more time than I do, but you never know. Do you see what I'm saying? So no matter what time it is, pay attention to it. And so we're going to talk about redeeming the time today. Psalm 90 verse 12 says, "Teach us to make the most of our time so that we can grow in wisdom." And in Jeremiah 29:11, remember, it says that I have a what? A purpose and a plan for you. Yes. He makes it clear that he already has plans for us. And then on top of that, he assures us that he's going to help us and not allow any hurt. He's not going to cause hurt to us. So he's giving us this assurance. I have a purpose and a plan for you. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to help you accomplish that. And he says, I'm giving you a future and a hope. What beautiful gifts. And that's great news. But you know what happens? Every time God gives us a gift, what happens? We got to do something with it, right? And so he's given us that gift. And now we are supposed to, the ball is in our court. What are we going to do with that time? And that should be something that we think about and that is important, that we figure out now so that we can maximize however much time that is. So redeeming the time, what does redeem mean? What is redeeming? A little louder. Okay. Right, okay. So to redeem means to purchase or make the most of. Make the most of something given to you. And sometimes, to purchase, it would be on God's end that the purchase was made. But to us, we need to make the most of that gift. And so time is probably the most beautiful and the most extravagant gift that we can give or receive. And someone said, and I really like this, it made me really stop and think. They said, time is that which keeps everything from happening all at once. Just think, if you think of one day and everything that went on, if it just went brrr in 60 seconds, we'd be laid out flat, wouldn't we? And so time helps us, keep everything paced out just right, unless we are overdoers, which I belong to the club of over here. But time is a divine gift, and when we understand and comprehend that God is the giver of that gift, and that it's really a precious gift. I don't know about you, but I've always just assumed I had time. I take it for granted. We all have time, right? We all get the same, 24/7, all that. But it's really a gift. And then in Scripture, it tells us in Ecclesiastes, we do learn there that there is a time for everything under the sun. A season for, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant. And when you think about it, there's like light and dark. There's plant and harvest. There's barrenness and fruitfulness. And when you start looking at this, I don't think it's just the natural world. I think it's that it's also about our lives, the seasons in our lives. And love, think about, there's love and hate. There's weeping and laughing, mourning and dancing, living and dying. It gets very personal. That time for everything isn't just about the natural world that's, the moon and the stars and the earth and everything. But it's about us. For everything, there is a season, beautiful in its own time. And the reason it's beautiful is because God has set eternity in our hearts. I love that. That's why, unless we're close to Him, we're never content. We're never truly happy or fulfilled. And that's that longing, that compass that He set in our heart that's set toward home. So no matter what's happening at this time in your life, no matter how wonderful or how difficult, some of us are going through illnesses. Some people, have terrible things happening to family members or struggles and different things. We all have that. But no matter what's going on, it's important that we begin to understand that it can be used for good if we let it. And that's why when we're given the chance one day to look back, that we're told we wouldn't change a thing because of the outcome. So it's beautiful in its own way. Now, I can use this example. When I lost my husband, I really didn't believe that to be true, But I can tell you this, that I'm closer to God now than I was before, because He has no competition in my life. Now, I'm not saying that would hold true with anybody else, but I'm saying in my life, God could use that for good. He didn't want that to happen. He didn't cause it to happen, but He will use it for good. And so that's a positive, beautiful thing that I can say, that I'm closer to my Savior than I ever was when my husband was here. And I loved the Lord then too, but I'm more focused and fastened on that ultimate destination. And so that's what we want to do, is we want to stay focused, and we want to learn to redeem the time to make the most of it. Now, if we want to stay focused and keep our destination in sight, let's take a look at a few people that God's formula worked for. We kind of talked about them a little bit earlier, but I want to just touch base on them again. One of them is Mother Teresa. Did God have a plan for her life? He did, most assuredly. And she had a love for the poor and the dying. How many people have a ministry for the poorest of the poor? Not poor. And when I went to India, one of my favorite things used to be, from the time Katie was a little tiny girl, she and I would go cook at the soup kitchen. Man, she can cook up a storm now, too. I think that's partly why we'd get there, and it was like, oh, we're going to have 50 more people than last week. Okay, so we'd have to scratch something up. But I loved reaching out to people in need and everything, and Katie does too. But here's the deal. I then, fast forward, I go to India on a mission trip. Our people are not poor. They have options. Poor is really a relative thing. And so what I'm trying to say is to have a heart for the poorest of the poor is very rare. We don't even really understand it until you're in a third world country, I don't think. And so her ministry was to meet the needs of those two groups. She did all she could with what she had where she was at. Now, would you agree that her ministry touched lives? Okay, girls, I know you had lunch and you're ready for a nap. It's just not going to work. I want to hear. Did her ministry touch lives? Yes, it did. Okay. And so she did all she could with what she had, where she was at. Don't forget that. Now, I believe that when she reached out to those dying people and those poor people, that she not only changed their lives, of course, her life was changed, but also she changed our lives because we learned from Mother Teresa the true essence of loving the poorest of the poor and the dying. So when she changed their lives, their world, she changed ours too. Now, what about Florence Nightingale? You know, she was quite extraordinary in her time. She was born in 1920 in Italy to English parents, and they were very wealthy. And back then, well, first of all, she was articulate, she was well-educated and independent. Now, that sounds really good about now, 2023, right? How do you think it went over in 1937? Not too good. It was not popular at all. And to be a nurse, that was brand new, and they thought of it as very negative, not a good. They thought of sort of, I don't know, how would we say it? Illicit or something. I don't know the right word, but it was not well thought of. But God had called Florence to be a nurse. She just ignored all the voices around her trying to get her to not do that. You should just stay home. We're rich. You can get a good husband and be respectable. But instead, she went to nursing school. That was the plan God had for her. And despite all opposition, and she trained to become a nurse. Now, in 1854, when the Crimean War broke out, she hopped on a ship, and 36 other nurses and her went to Constantinople to work in the hospital there. So you can imagine, I mean, they're going against the grain. We can all understand this, but not as much as she could. But we get the drift, right? So they arrive there, they get off the ship, and they go to the hospital, which was more like a dirty dungeon. And they wanted to get to work, and they were told, no, you can't. You can't do any nursing here. Well, I don't know about you, but I would have hopped on the ship and gone home. Like, are you kidding me? You know, kind of a thing. But she didn't. So I'm assuming she was praying. And at night, she would walk through the hospital, the dungeon, and it was filthy, just filthy dirty. And she would go with a lantern and she would visit the sick and the dying men. Now, was she technically being a nurse? No, she wasn't. But she was saving lives and making the end of life for many of the soldiers bearable and very precious. So she did that, and she became lovingly known as the Lady of the Lamp. And so it made a big difference to thousands of soldiers. Well, pretty soon, she went to the people who ran the prison who wouldn't let her do any nursing or any of the others. And she said, would you let us clean? Because she saw that more men were dying from the infection and the filth than they were from the injuries they were brought in for. A huge percentage. And said, would you let us clean? Would you please let us clean? So they said, well, okay, you can clean. Well, were they technically being nurses? No. But did it make a difference? It saved thousands of lives. And guess what? Out of that was born nursing as we know it. When Florence Nightingale changed her world, she changed ours too. And we learned so much. And so it's really, we want to think a minute here. If you've been called by God, say like she was, to be a nurse, you train, you do everything possible, everything you're called to do, you do. And you get there and you're not allowed to do it. I don't know how many of us, no show of hands, but how many of us would give up? Probably a percentage of us, thinking, well, if I can't do what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm out of here. But instead, the soldiers didn't dictate to her. She was there, and she was going to do whatever she could to help out. And so when Florence Nightingale and Mother Teresa changed their worlds, they changed ours too. And when we change, which we all are agreeing to today, right? We're here together. We've come. We want to learn. We want to sit at the feet of Jesus. And he's telling us today, don't go home a lukewarm Christian. Go home a passionate woman of God. And do what I've called you to do. Whatever that is, do it. And remember where we're headed is so important because that'll make the difference in you being able to hone in on what God wants you to do if you keep your ultimate destination in mind. Now, this is one I use often because it just speaks volumes to us, but I love the story about Albert Einstein. He used to travel by train a lot. And when the ticket collector came through to get his ticket, he always kept it in his vest pocket. So he reached in to get it, and it wasn't there. And so he was like, oh, just a minute, and he reached in his coat pockets and pulled them inside out, no ticket. He reached into his pants pockets, back pockets, nothing. And the ticket collector said to him, oh, that's all right, Dr. Einstein, we know who you are, just don't worry about it. He went on down the rest of the cars and punched everybody's ticket, and on his way back, he saw Dr. Einstein down on the floor, still looking for the missing ticket. So he raced over to him and said, oh, Dr. Einstein, please don't worry. I told you not to worry. We trust you. And so Einstein stood up, looked the young man in the eyes and said, young man, this is not a matter of trust, but of direction. I need that ticket so I can remember where I'm going. Now, we can laugh at him, but if you think about it, how often do we forget where we're headed? You know, like I said, when I'm at the line in the bank and it's taking forever and I'm mumbling or people cut me off on the road, or we all know those scenarios, right? We all have those. But if I can keep in mind where I'm headed, then I act differently than I would otherwise. And so the Bible tells us that wise people have a sense of their God-given direction. See, it matters what time it is. It matters what gifts God has given you. It matters what his plan for you is. It all converges. And it's all going to work toward our destination and helping others get there too. Now, you know, when we have our destination clearly in front of us, we got to then have a plan, right? And so I think of sanguine people. You know, if you try to get serious and make a plan and write things down, and I'm organized. I'm choleric. I'm like super choleric, you know. Tina's sanguine. So we meet in the middle often to hug and say, oh, I'm sorry. Because I'm always like, over this way on the organized side. And she's over there on the, you know, fun side and getting it and having such a good time. And she makes everything go. But I'm over here on the little details, you know. But for the sanguine people who get afraid, it's not like that when you're dealing with God's things, right? It's always fun. And as you consistently draw closer to God and your destination, and what you want to do is, that's like a roadmap. Okay, there's a roadmap for getting us safely to our destination. And that plan or map should do these things, okay? They should consistently draw you closer to your ultimate destination. And through you, meet the needs of the people that you come around, your family and the people in your sphere of influence. And if it doesn't do both those things, then I hate to tell you, and I've done this many times myself, but you've taken a detour, and it wasn't a heavenly one. So we need to get back on track. You know, keep your destination clearly before you. On our way here, Tina and I were always punching the GPS thingy, right? Like, oh, are we going this way or that way? What's the best way to get there? That's what we want to do in our, you know, trip and our journey as we journey to the kingdom. And don't pull an Einstein and forget where you're headed, like I do sometimes at the bank, the store, or wherever. And it's easy to get distracted. But we have a purpose, but if we don't have the plan, we might lose sight of our destination. That's another reason God gives us the things to do to help others. Because while we're helping others, remember 2 Peter, okay, in our verse there, he wants to keep us busy to help others find the way, but also so that we don't take detours. See, that helps us by helping others. It's so divinely, you know, he created and designed everything so perfectly, but sometimes we're slow on connecting the dots. So, but Jeremiah 29:11 says, I already know the plans I have for you. If you don't know what his plans for you are yet, just get with him. He's eager to tell you. Just ask him. Lord, reveal to me what plan you have for me. and they evolve, they change. I have a lady at one of the church that I go to, and she isn't able to get out and about. And she has a burden to do, some ministry. And she just would, she felt really bad about it, and I'd pray with her and everything. And then she came up with the water bottle ministry. And so we made labels, and she has glow tracks and different things, but they go out to the homeless, and when other church events are happening and things, the water bottles are there and different things. You know what I mean? So she has a ministry she can do from home and get it ready, and then it goes out. So I'm just trying to encourage you, if you think, well, I don't know what to do, everything counts. Just let him show you what it is, because it really does matter. And it can be fun. Like she and I, we started praying about it and then came up with it. And then she got all excited. And they went with these kits to go out to the homeless that we do once or twice a year. Now the water bottle ministry teams with that ministry, and it's really wonderful. So everything counts. Now, let's say, we're going to switch gears here. Let's say somebody comes up to you and says, I'm going to give you the money, however much it costs, to build your dream home. So I want to ask you, what's the first thing you do after you thank God and your benefactor? What's the first thing you're going to do? Plan it? I heard that back there. Yes, plan it. And what do you often do? You have to have what to get a house built? A blueprint, or have an architect draw it up, but get a blueprint of what you want, right? Okay, so let's say you have the architect draw up the plan, your dream house, right? Somebody's going to pay for it. The architect drew up your dream home. Now, do you go home and tuck that in a drawer and take it out every once in a while and go, oh, look, Lynette, look what I'm going to get someday? Or what do you do with it? Do you hide it? Do you keep it? What do you do with it? You go to I knew you'd come up with that. And so you then start having the house built, right? You don't just get excited that you have the plans and the money, but you start getting the house built. And so you start building. Well, you get excited because you and your husband and your 6 kids are in a 1-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom, right? Do you think you'll stay focused? Exactly. You're not going to just think, oh, well, I'll work on that some other time. Instead, you're going to get really excited, you're going to stay really focused, and you're going to keep that contractor working, right? And you stay motivated, and you're in that prepare mode. Now, when my daughter got married, was it a stretch for me to stay focused, or her? No, absolutely not. Was it a burden? You just had 2 girls married. Was it a burden? It was a joy, wasn't it? It's a lot of work, we'll attest to that for sure. But it was a joy, and you stayed focused. You had a date, a time, an event that's very special, and everything that you did and said about that, you were preparing toward that destination. Now, my daughter has 4 children, my little Chinesians, I call them, and they're just wonderful little creatures, and we have dedications and birthdays, Christmas, and pretty soon we'll have graduations, and we have musical concerts and all sorts of things. It's never a burden to plan for those things. It's a lot of work, but it's a joy. And God wants us to feel that way about what he gives us to do. So maybe it's time that you and I start preparing for eternity like we prepare for family events. And we had fun getting ready to come today. We all live in different towns, but we were all connected, and we were like, oh, yay, we can't wait to go. And Lynette's going to sing. Tina's going to take her registration and leading out at the beginning. And, huh? And what are you wearing? Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, are you wearing pants or a skirt? Yeah, we weren't sure what we were going to do. But we stayed connected, and we were excited. Now, if we hadn't been excited to come, it would probably have a different feel to it, right? And if you hadn't been excited to come, it would feel a lot different to us. And so these things matter. We need to stay focused, and we need to be about preparing. And so I think that each and every day, even if you just pick out one thing that you're going to do that is preparing for heaven, No matter what it is, it can be something very small. But just say, every day, Lord, help me see something I can do that will help me prepare for heaven. Because you do know that heaven is a prepared place for a prepared people. You know, if you're not preparing now, you probably wouldn't be happy there. And for sure, you won't be able to go, because heaven really is a prepared place for prepared people. That's how it works. And so I am all about getting prepared, and I get more and more excited because, as you can see on my clock, it's way up there. And so I want to make the most of that time. And sometimes, you know, our planning can feel a little intimidating, a little overwhelming, you know, as we get ready. But if we will stick close to the Savior and follow his leads, not what I think I should do to get ready, but let him lead, it won't be intimidating or overwhelming. It will be enjoyable. And so we want to find that joy that he has for us. And he has set that eternity in our hearts and our ultimate destination. And it's time now to get ready for then. It's time to start redeeming the time that God has given us in ways that will actually prepare us for eternity. It's not about just having a good time, but he allows us to have a blessed time. But when we're about his business and when we are about preparing, then we can have great joy, even if it's tough times or, you know, tough things. You know, when we pull alongside people who lose people or go through tragedy of some kind, that's a tough time, but we can have the joy that we are reaching out and touching hearts and helping them along. Because in their weakness, we don't want them to lose their way, right? So there's so many ways that we can stay focused. So that brings us to a story that I want to share with you, and then you're going to get your little daffodil thing here. But I love this story, and I read it many years ago, and ever since then, I've just called it the daffodil principle, and I think you'll like it. It says, several times my daughter telephoned to say, "Mother, you must come and see the daffodils before they're over." Well, I wanted to go, but it was a 2-hour drive from Laguna to Lake Arrowhead. And so I said, well, I'll come next Tuesday. I promised, and so I drove there, she said. When I finally walked into Carolyn's house and hugged and greeted my grandchildren, I said, well, forget the daffodils. The road is invisible in clouds and fog. And there's nothing in the world I want to do except for spend time with you and the children. I'm not going to go another inch on that road. Well, my daughter smiled and calmly said, we drive in this all the time, Mother. And I said, well, you won't get me back on the road until it clears, and then I'm heading home. I assured her. Well, she said, I was hoping you'd take me over to the garage to pick my car up. Oh, how far will we have to drive? Just a few blocks, Carolyn said. I'll drive. I'm used to it. So after several minutes on this little journey, the mother said, where are we going? This is not the way to the garage. And Carolyn said, I said sternly, please turn this car around. Well, it's all right, Mother, she said, I promise. You'll never forgive yourself if you miss the experience. Well, after about 20 minutes, we turned onto a small gravel road, and I saw a small church. And on the far side of that church, I saw a hand-lettered sign that read, Daffodil Garden. We got out of the car, and each took a child's hand, and I followed my daughter down a path, and when we turned the corner, I looked up and gasped. Before me lay the most glorious sight. It looked as though someone had taken a great vat of gold and poured it down over the mountain peak and slopes. The flowers were planted in majestic, swirling patterns, great ribbons and swaths of deep orange, white, lemon yellow, salmon pink, saffron, and butter yellow. Each different colored variety was planted as a group so that it swirled and flowed like its own river with its own unique hue. There were 5 acres of flowers. I said, well, who's done this? And she said, it's just one woman. She lives on the property, and that's her little A-frame right over there. Wow, the little A-frame amidst all that glory was beautiful. She said, we walked up to the house, and on the patio was a poster that said, "Answer to the questions I know you're already asking." The first answer was a simple one, 50,000 bulbs. Wow. The second answer was one at a time by one woman, 2 hands, 2 feet, and very little brain. The third answer began in 1958. There it was, the daffodil principle. For me, that moment was a life-changing experience. I thought of this woman who I had never met, who for more than 40 years, this mother says, this woman that she had never met, for more than 40 years before, had begun one bulb at a time to bring her vision of beauty and joy to an obscure mountaintop. Still just planting one bulb at a time, year after year, she had changed the world. She had created something of ineffable, indescribable magnificence, beautiful and inspiring. Now, if you and I would redeem the tiny pieces of time we find here and there, we all find those little snippets of time, no matter how busy we are. If we would redeem even just those and not let them slip away, we could accomplish things we never thought possible, just like the lady planting the daffodil bulbs. Now, the mother in our story said it made her sad to think of what she might have accomplished if she had had that wonderful goal 35 years before or 40 years before and had worked at it, so, one bulb at a time, whatever it was that she was going to do, and she wished she had been doing it all those years. Just think, she said, what I might have been able to achieve. And then her daughter summed it up this way by simply saying, "Start today, Mom. Start today." And that's my challenge to each of you today. God has a purpose and a plan for each and every one of us in this room. He wants to spend eternity with each one of us. And He has given us an extravagant gift of time, that 24/7 we get all the time, over and over again, so that we can prepare. We're His bride. It should be a joy to prepare for His soon return. And that's what it's all about, fulfilling the purpose God has for each one of us. And we're on a journey. And that journey is going to take us from where we are this very minute. Someday in heaven, we'll all meet and say, "Oh, remember when the daffodils were there? Remember that?" And it's because we're purposeful. You purposefully came here today. And it's so awesome. You're staying focused. And we're all heaven bound. And we are first and foremost God's girls, right? And when we really start redeeming the time God gives us and not letting things just happen, I was really big on that. I was like, well, whatever, it'll all work out. No more. I don't think He would appreciate that very much. And so instead, what we want to do is we want to start preparing now for eternity. Let's do it with great joy. Don't go about it grumbling. Don't look like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. Well, Lord, what do you want me to, I guess I can get the suitcase out today, or whatever. Man, I've got my suitcase on the front porch. I don't want to miss. I don't want Him to miss that I'm ready when He comes. So we want to do it with joy and love. And whatever we do, redeem the time that God gives you. And remember that when we change our world by getting ready, and that's what we're going to do, right? And when we start changing and preparing, not only do we change, but it affects everybody around us. How many of you want all of your family there? How many of you want your friends there? How many of you would like as many more people as we can get? All right. So keep your destination clearly in sight. So when the ticket collector comes by to get your ticket, you won't pull an Einstein. You'll be ready. You'll be found faithfully redeeming the time that God has given you. Thanks so much. We've been summoned.
Do you want to bring that up? Do we want to give them do we want to give these fine ladies a thank you?
Thanks for having us.
We have a little something we want to give you as a thank you gift.
Oh, my goodness.
We're just really blessed that you came to be with us today. Thank you so much.
Oh, how beautiful. Oh, my goodness. Those are lovely.
Oh my.
Oh, those are beautiful. We were just talking about something like this.
Very sweet.
Oh, my word. You wouldn't believe it. We were just talking about how special those are
The ladies are wanting to see what's in.
They're beautiful. Thank you, ladies. Oh, my
So
goodness.
would you would like the ladies, our ladies, to come up?
If you would all come up, as you, wait till we tell you, but we're gonna hand you each a daffodil box, and then if you'll just come up here, we wanna get your picture.
Yeah, I want.
And bring your time things, and we'll give you your daffodils, and we'll get a picture of you.
Back up.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah.
And then we'll take a
And
picture
then-
with the ladies up on the stairs.
Go ahead and see it back in place so it looks nice up here. Just go ahead and put that goes, yeah.
Does that go right there? Perfect. Perfect.
Yay, thank you.
And